Hey, welcome to Guitar Knobs, the guitars, gear, noise, and nonsense podcast, hosted today by these knobs.
Tony Dudzik, Pick Guardian.
Jared Brandon One Pickups.
Hey, this is Todd Novak. We are super happy to have you along for this episode of the Guitar Knobs podcast.
That's right.
This is one of my favorite things in the whole wide world, and I hope it is yours too, or at least one of your nicest things that you like to, I don't know, be involved with.
Sounds great.
Yes.
Less filling.
Jared, what do we do on this show?
We talk about boutique guitar builders and
People who build bows?
And boutique too.
yeah. I've been saying boutique for a million years.
That's your jam.
I don't know if I could ever change that.
No,
That's
you can't.
okay.
And,
It's okay. Don't ever change for us.
Sometimes we talk to the larger companies, which we really enjoy as well.
Yeah.
And then we have 101 episodes as well. We talk about specific things.
Yes, sir.
It's a good time.
Speaking of that, we have somebody very special on the line.
Mike Robinson from Eastwood Guitars.
That's
Hey, Mike.
right. The famous Eastwood Guitars.
How are you guys doing tonight?
We are doing awesome. We are super excited to have you on. As I said, the famed Eastwood Guitars. You've cornered the market in very interesting guitars.
Cool.
Cool, interesting guitars.
Cornered the
Cool,
market on
retro.
cool.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'd
So,
like to think we'd cornered the market, but yeah.
well, we're going to get all into that shortly. For those of you who can take a quick look, go to eastwoodguitars.com and or check them out online at on Instagram on your phone and stuff, and you can see all the good stuff there. We're going to get into just a tiny touch of business. One of our listeners, who a very active listener, and by active I mean participates in the socials, sends us emails and all kinds of stuff. He had a great idea. His name's Ron Brené, and he said, hey, why don't you do a question and answer episode from the fans? And we typically have, not turned it into, let's tell you guys all about, what answering all your questions and stuff, because as I've mentioned many times before, I really approach this from a learning aspect. I'm partnered by Tony and Jared, who know, way more in their little finger than I do about guitar stuff. So I thought, you know what, Ron? That's a great idea, and we're going to open up the lines to do that. So
The floodgates.
The floodgates. But we will need to do that via email. So here's the thing. If you want us to answer your question, shoot us an email, todd@theguitarknobs.com. Or if you must, and you just can't possibly figure out how to send an email or want to, or just refuse based on principle, you can do that a direct message via Instagram. Okay? Those are your two options. That's it. Instagram or email. We'll take both. I don't know exactly when we're going to do that episode. We'll probably wait for sort of critical mass to come in as far as questions go. But stay tuned. So thank you, Ron, for suggesting that. He's been a great friend to the show and a great friend to me personally. So I'm thankful for his involvement. The only other thing that I will mention, two things. Check us out on Spotify if you haven't already. Please give us a good rating wherever you're listening, because it helps us get into the the airspace of others who are looking for guitar stuff, guitar related podcasts. And we definitely want to grow our new listener base. Each of you was once a new listener. So
right.
Put yourself in their shoes. You know what I mean? Now let's figure out what's going on in our music world this week, everybody. Tony.
Well, two things. Interestingly, I have this weird thing with 3 pickup guitars.
A weird good thing?
I guess it's a weird good thing.
A weird thing you should hide from your mom.
No, I don't have to hide this from my mom. I'm old enough now, it doesn't matter. No, and there's always this deal. In this case, it's a Rickenbacker that I put back together. It's a 3 pickup, 340. And it's got a toggle switch, like a Gibson style toggle switch, and only 4 controls because I put it back. I wanted to give it kind of a 50s look. So the traditional way to wire one of those is the neck and the middle pickup get wired together and kind of they're in parallel at that point. and so it kind of reduces the volume out of that pair of pickups, and then the bridge is wired separately. So when I first wired it, I said, well, I'm going to do something cool, like I'll just use a master tone control, and then the third volume control is going to be a blend for the middle pickup. And so I was monkeying around with that, played with it for a while, and it was so counterintuitive. So today I decided that I would wire it with 2 volume, 2 tones, but I put a push-pull for the middle pickup. Mm-hmm. So in the down position, it's wired like a traditional Rickenbacker, and then with the up position, it basically takes out the middle pickup. So it's not as, I guess, diverse as I originally had it wired, but it actually, I think, sounds a little bit better, and it just makes so much more sense to me. So that was today's little project. And then my buddy Steve, God, I love Steve. He has a gear acquisition syndrome worse than I do.
Yes.
But in addition to that, he has been collecting many different guitar magazines since the 70s. Mm-hmm. And he's in the process of cleaning out and selling his father's house where he had all this stuff stored. So he called me and said, I don't know what to do with all these boxes of magazines. But he's also very meticulous because he will have an index that has every magazine that he's a little anal retentive. But that's okay. That's what I love about him.
Or OCD.
Or a little both.
Yeah.
So he said, I'm just going to call someone and just have them haul this stuff away. I said, no, you're not going to do that. So I said,
so you inherited them.
Well, I'm going to inherit them. I told him what I'm going to do is I'm going to sell them for him, and then we're just going to split the profits.
There you go.
So, but I mean, I'm so excited about this because there's magazines that I've never seen before.
That's really cool.
I mean, stuff from, when I was a kid, I remember, like I had magazines in the 80s and the 90s, but the stuff from the 70s is just so out there. And on eBay or even on Amazon, they're going for ridiculous amounts of money, especially if it's a famous player on the cover.
Late 80s, early 90s not going for a lot?
Although they are.
Really?
Yeah.
I've got a small box of magazines that I've had that long.
So I'm in the process here. I brought a list of the various things. I mean, he's got guitar players.
And we're going to name them all right now.
No, we're not.
All of them.
Okay, that's enough for you.
He's got magazines from the UK. I mean, it's just like, so I'm going to start with the ones that I think will sell pretty easily.
Yeah.
He's got years written down, and then next to it in parentheses, it says all.
Wow.
It's great. And these things are all in sleeves inside of boxes.
Oh, you're kidding.
He's very meticulous.
So I'm thinking maybe there's going to be some like insane collector from like Japan that's going to buy the whole lot.
It's possible.
That would be convenient.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Anyways.
It would be expensive to ship, but anyhow.
Or Toronto.
Or Toronto.
Yes.
Notice I said Toronto, not Toronto.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
You like that? I've been working on it. We have got a huge contingency of Torontonians on the show. So we love the Canadians. Let's hear from Mike real quick here. Let's get him on the show. How about we do that?
I'm here. What would you like me to discuss? What's new this week?
That's right, sir.
How about? Okay, so I'm not sure when you're going to air this, but it was my birthday yesterday, so I picked myself
happy
up.
birthday!
Oh, thank you very much. I picked myself up a new toy, which is I don't know if you're probably familiar with the Magnatone Varsity Reverb amp.
Oh, yeah,
Magnatones are making a comeback right now.
It is just so good. Like for years, I've relied on a Fender Deluxe Reverb 67 Blackface. That was kind of my favorite amp, and it just kind of puts everything else to shame. But this Magnatone is just killer. And the funny thing is, although it was my birthday yesterday, I actually got it 6 months ago, but I didn't tell my wife until yesterday when I said, "Look what I got myself for my birthday."
You have to play that game too, huh?
Yeah. So it's kind of been quietly hiding in the background, and now it kind of moved to the front.
Nice.
And, yeah.
Very cool.
That's very cool. Yeah, there's I don't know if you saw in the last, it was probably maybe 3 or 4, 5 issues ago. There was an article on Magnatone amps, the original ones, and they had like this giant all-in-one amplifier that had the whole band plugged into.
Oh wow!
And they had it on the back of this pickup truck, and it had like 15.
Oh wait, yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah, it's huge. It's like the Colossus or something like that.
Yep.
And Neil Young used one of the cabinets, or probably still uses one of the cabinets, not all the guts and everything, but it's got like horns and 12s and 10s and 15s and probably 18s for that matter.
Yeah.
But it was all like this self-contained thing, and this band that they interviewed used it in the 60s in the back of a pickup truck.
Yeah, no, there's an article, or is it an ad? There's a famous ad, I think, that's got them all hanging. It almost looks like that old Georgia Satellites video. Well, the one.
Obviously, your Magnatone is not that amp, but
keep your hand. Yeah, it was
keep your hands to yourself.
Yeah, don't tell me no lies and keep your.
Oh, you got to
to
sing it
yourself.
with twang.
No, I
man.
can't do
Come
that.
on.
It's such a great song, though. Go listen to that song. That's a great one. Georgia Satellites.
Yep.
Okay. Hey, Jared, what are you doing?
Okay, so I'm just, I don't know what I'm gonna do in my playing area where I have all, the amps and guitars and all that kind of stuff. I have these nice guitars that are hanging up on two different walls. But every time I go to play guitar, I'm getting one out of the case. You know what I mean? But I don't want to hang up, my Gibson Les Pauls. I don't want to hang them up on the wall.
Why not?
Because I just don't want to hang them up.
All right.
I want to keep them in the case and let them marinate in that old vintage stinky case.
So you should not leave them in the case.
No, man.
Why not?
Marinate them on the walls. They're beautiful. You got to look at them. Don't keep them in a case. Come on.
Then you got to get the special hangers that don't eat through the lacquer.
It's just you don't have silicone. Hey, that's a good. That is a quick note. Anybody who's using Hercules style hangers or the kind of forked hangers that have like the rubber on the end, if it is silicone, that will burn through your nitro.
Yep.
So
That's what
make
I'm
sure
afraid
you
of.
either put a towel on it or have the foam
Or a hanky.
ones.
I've learned that the hard way.
There you go.
Yeah, my
You
dad
heard it
had
from an expert right there.
My dad had a $5,000 Gibson Custom Shop acoustic guitar that had happened to.
Yep.
Yeah.
And to get it fixed.
So if you don't know what silicone ones look like, it looks like surgical tube. All right,
Tube.
it's sort of like vanilla yellow color.
I
So
know
if-
what silicone.
If you
ones look
have
like.
that, make sure you get your guitar like taken care of there. People, kiddos, children's.
I just feel better when the nicer guitars that I own are in the cases.
I guess so.
But I
Jared,
don't know.
Most of your guitars are really nice.
Let's
Nicer
put that
than-
one out to a vote to the listeners.
Your worst guitar is more expensive than my best guitar.
Nah, I
Yes,
don't know.
that's true. Just admit it. It's fine. Okay, so cool.
Okay.
You're working on that. Excellent.
Maybe you need one of those Jetsons closets, and you can have.
Ooh, yeah.
It will at random send the guitar out to you.
like a tie rack thing.
Yeah.
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 Just press a random button.
It seems like Eastwood
like that.
should come up with something like that.
I'm on it.
Yeah. If you
I
don't
love
know
it.
which one to choose, press the random button.
Yeah.
Just pick it for you.
Yeah, it's like a CD changer.
I love that.
That'd be awful. It just gave you the same one every time.
Except the console would be like a series of like 12 single push buttons. So like like an old jukebox kind of thing, or like an Eastwood guitar.
Yeah, the problem with that is we've got over 250 models, so it'd have to be a really deep closet.
Holy smokes.
Yeah.
And then when it cycles through the one, it could take a while.
Yeah. Well, that's there's aspirations for everyone.
Nearly
isn't
a
there?
year's worth of guitars.
Yeah, one a day.
Yeah.
What about you, Todd?
Well,
What's going on, man?
I finally broke down. I wasn't really happy with my overall drive sound, and I think most of us who are playing guitar are always searching for the best drive, the gooder drive, all that stuff. So I finally said, all right, I'm gonna get an OCD. I've never had one. I've had the opportunity to buy one many, many times, but as it is with me, as soon as I decided I needed to do that, it wasn't like in a week. It was like right now. I have to find one right now. And I found one online super late at night at my local music go-round, which is a place where you can, you sell your used gear and they give you credit and you can buy new stuff. So it's like a used gear shop. And I went in to go buy it, and someone had snagged it online, apparently right after I had seen it. So there went my opportunity, and I had practice coming up, and I was like, woe is me, what am I going to do? So I went back to the old Craigslist and did a search, and lo and behold, I found a guy who was selling one. I said, how much do you want for it? And he said, $40, brand new. And I'm like, I'll be right there. So I went and met him, and I got it, and it's pretty much brand new.
Nice.
I'm smiling right now because that's a good deal.
That's a damn good deal.
And that thing sounds so good. Oh, why did I hold out so long? Because I'm a doofus. I don't know. But I still won't be buying a tube screamer. But anyways.
Well, that's too bad.
Yeah.
I was working on your guitars today.
Yeah.
And I did use the tube screamers.
It probably sounded pretty good, right?
It sounded all right.
Yeah. See? All right. Anyhow, so that was mine. So now I kind of actually want to maybe get another one and just have it dialed in totally different for my other guitar.
I have done that.
That is such an appropriately named pedal for you.
The ones and
OCD.
twos. I got the OCD ones and twos. I like it. That should be a double pedal. Hello, full tone. That should be a double pedal, a double OCD. Oh my gosh.
That we could call it the OOCD, the
Yeah.
obsessive
OCD
disorder.
Okay. Hey everybody. We've got Mike Robinson from Eastwood Guitars. And boy, am I excited.
Great.
And so is he, apparently. And you should all be too. Why? Because Tony, tell him why. I know that you were like kind of personally vested in this episode.
Yes, I'm a major stockholder.
Well, no, I know that Mike's a friend of yours. And
executive producer.
You love these guitars.
Yeah,
so.
Mike and I have been doing some stuff back and forth over the years, and I've always, I've probably owned, I won't say I've owned all of the line, but I've owned many different Eastwood models, and I've always been impressed. I mean, the thing that I like about them is they are based on classic, cool designs, Japanese designs, airline models.
Yeah.
Everything. And they are so much from someone who's owned many of the original ones. These are so much better put together. You can actually use them in a live situation.
So for any of you who are still going like, I'm not sure what this is. If you've seen, you're probably familiar with Jack White. He kind of resurrected that airline model, or at least made it more present to a lot of folks. So his red sort of quote unquote plastic style guitar.
Well, his is a plastic.
I know, but I'm saying style because I didn't want to get myself into trouble if I was wrong.
Just in case. Double checking the checkers.
And it maybe even more famously, Johnny Ramone, Mouse Right.
There you go.
Well, it's a mark.
We certainly
What?
cover all those bases.
Yes.
Yes.
And
But
guitars.
just the tip of the iceberg.
Yes, and that was just to name it too. That's just so people could go like, oh, okay, I know what's going on now.
Don't forget that Kurt Cobain kind of guy with his old
Mustang?
No, the old, like the side jacks.
Oh, yeah, the side jack.
He used like a Univox
High flyer.
high
was the-
flyer. That's
Yeah.
right. And you make
yeah,
a high
the old
flyer
high
version
flyer.
too, right?
We do.
That's right.
Okay, so we're looking at very unique, very classic, older, I guess, 60s based styles that Eastwood has brought into the future, which is right now, and also what just happened a minute ago. But to Tony's point is that these are really, really well-made guitars now, and there's a great love for especially the old like Teiscos and stuff, that the Japanese style guitars that are just kind of like strange and very unique and borderline goofy looking at times, with lots of buttons and sort of things that's like, I don't even know why this is here, but it's cool, right? And odd shapes. But the problem with those have always been, Tony,
They break.
yes, they're not a ton of fun to play because they're just not set up really well.
No, a lot of the necks, especially on the old Japanese ones, can be hit or miss. A lot of times they're either baseball bats or they're so thin you can't even play them.
Yep.
But I mean, beyond that, I mean, gosh, back in the 80s, I mean, I remember when I would go to pawn shops up in Youngstown and buy the Tascos and every other things for, $25 or $30. And, back then it was cool to smash things. I could kill myself now for doing that and seeing as what they're going for now. But, in addition to the Eastwood line being very well made, it's also stupidly affordable.
It really is stupidly affordable. So every time that I get an email or something in my Instagram that's saying, "Hey, here's this model, and we're running a deal on it," and it's like maybe I think you've had like B units, like blemished or just, and I'm sitting there and I'm going, why don't I just buy it? I really should buy this right now. I should buy it right now. But I too have a wife, and that would get me into a lot of trouble. So
when's your birthday?
Yeah, exactly. But people, these are really, really well-priced guitars. We're not going to say the prices, but I promise you will be shocked at how affordable these guitars actually are. And for the cool factor and the well-made factor, this is kind of like you kind of have to have one of these. Now, I think we should probably turn it over to Mr. Eastwood himself, so he can actually run the rest of the show, so they just aren't listening to me and Tony blab on.
Mike, I'd be happy to.
Let's go back to the very beginning.
Pick up. Well, it's kind of like Tony when you were hovering around pawn shops in the late '80s. I was doing the exact same thing.
Early '80s.
Yeah, early '80s. But I mean, back then it was long before the internet ever came about. So that's how you found these weird old guitars. So I was living in Toronto at the time, kind of mid-late '80s. I bought up as many weird. I was always drawn to the stuff with way too many knobs and switches because it was just cool. I was never ever a Fender or Gibson guy. I just wanted things that just looked odd, and then tried to figure out how to set them up and make them somewhat playable. But I think it was '91. My family and I moved out to California for the business I was in was a tech company, and there was more pawn shops in the Bay Area than all of Canada. So I could jump in my car any Saturday morning and hit a bunch of pawn shops and find. I was buying those old Jack White. They're called Resoglass. They're made out of fiberglass. And I was buying those guitars in pawn shops for $250 in 1991 through 1994 before anybody knew what they were. And I was just buying them because I thought they were cool.
Yeah.
Really quickly, what is Resoglass?
It's fiberglass. So they were molded fiberglass bodies. And the reason, for those of you who know the guitar, there's a white stripe that goes down the middle of the body, and it's really just a rubber grommet that sandwiches the back and the front together, and holds the two in place. So it's a hollow body fiberglass guitar. The originals were, which had a whole pile of issues around that, which made it fairly unstable and next to.
Yeah, and then they also had a hunk of wood down the middle.
Yeah, they had to have a hunk of wood down the middle, which you mounted the neck to. But the controls were just, you drill a hole in the fiberglass and screw the pots on, and it was a strange design, but it Jack White came on later onto the scene, probably late '90s. I'm not sure exactly, but all of a sudden it was cool to own those, and it all kind of came together. I think I started was I guess today you'd call it a blog, but it was a website called My Rare Guitars in 1997. And the reason I was doing that is because eBay had just started, probably a year prior. Wow. And that was the only place to buy, sell, trade stuff like this, if you didn't own a store. And within 18 months to 2 years, I had a fairly extensive following of like-minded people worldwide, not just the United States or Canada. There was people worldwide who were interested in the same weird, quirky guitars, and I would photograph every one that I bought. I'd fix it up. I'd write a little story about it, a couple paragraphs. That's all. I'd put it up for sale on on the My Rare Guitars site and or eBay, and that's how the business kind of got started.
Yeah,
So
I spent more than my fair share of time on My Rare Guitars if I was trying to identify something or if I just needed information.
Yeah.
And it was a valuable resource, especially as you say for the people selling things on eBay or anything like that. So
it was, and at the time it was just a hobby. Like any hobby, you get passionate about it and you write quite detailed descriptions of what it is you have, what it is you learned about them, how you fixed it, why you fixed it. And you're right, it became a valuable resource for anybody who was interested in this kind of funky, weird world. And I still had a real job, so this wasn't, was never intended to be a business. Until 2001, I went down to the NAMM show for the first time, and I took that red. No, actually, it was a Mosrite guitar, because I was really excited about Mosrite, however you pronounce it. But that was the one style that I really thought was really a beautiful guitar. Still do today. So I took one down to the NAMM show and just started shopping around to see if there's anybody willing to build them. And I was thinking, I'll find somebody and I'll make 50 of them, and there's a business. But you find out that back then you need to order 650 of them before anybody before anybody even begins to talk to you. So I kind of came away from that. I think I was there on the Friday. Went to the hotel Friday night and started drawing up on a piece of paper what a purchase order of 650 guitars might look like. And all of a sudden, okay, it can't be just Mosrite, it's got to be Vox Phantoms. So I just put down all the weird things that I liked. And I went back the next morning, and that's how the whole thing got started.
Wow.
Yeah, and it was, in hindsight, it was somewhat of a leap of faith. But, I mean, the fact that we now have well over 250 different models in 3 or 4 colors each, and we've got distribution warehouses in Chicago, Toronto, Liverpool, and you guys, actually, I met you guys at the new Nashville one.
Yeah, absolutely.
Back in the summer, at the Summer Now. So the thing's grown from that back of the napkin purchase order. And the funny thing was that I think it was, so that would have been, actually it was NAMM, January 2002. We put in the order. We moved back to Toronto in June of 2002. And in July of 2002, this 20-foot container literally backed up the driveway. And all the kids in the neighborhood came out and helped us unload the container. We're stuffing guitars down into the basement, into the living room. Like you could barely move around the house, all these guitars there. So
that was like the initial order was 600 some guitars, or wow. That's crazy.
That's the way they used to do it. I mean, you had to fill. They don't care what you buy as long as you fill a 20-foot container.
Yep.
If you fill a 40-foot container, you're a really big customer. If you're 20-foot, then we hope you get into a 40-foot next year.
So how did you initially? I mean, it's kind of a leap of faith going with someone you really haven't done business with before. I mean, I'm sure now you know what your suppliers are capable of and the quality levels and things. How did that first run, the first batch or whatever, did it meet your expectations?
Yeah, I mean that's a big learning curve, and I wouldn't say the first batch. I would say the first 4 to 5 years was a big learning curve, and you start to learn, how and when your expectations are going to get wildly missed, and sometimes you just can't imagine how bad it can be. But you have to just kind of work with what you have, and then try to educate the builder more every cycle you go through. And then we started moving into different builders in different countries to hit different price points and different quality levels. And so now we've got Mando casters made in China for $299, and we've got the Revolta guitars with Dennis Fano that are more into the sort of $1,400 range that are made in Korea at some of the best factories in Korea. So but it's been 15, 16 years of learning as we go.
Yeah,
That's
Yeah,
a
I'm
commitment.
sure every shipment is something new.
Yeah.
Well, I've got a question. What led you to Eastwood? What led you to that name?
Oh, I hate this question. But the real simple answer is that Friday night when I was sitting in a hotel room writing that PO on the back of a napkin, I was watching a Clint Eastwood movie.
For real?
It was like an all-night Clint
I
Eastwood
love it.
movie thing.
I
Like
love
every.
Clint Eastwood.
So I just wrote Eastwood on there just as a placeholder.
Oh my
That's
god,
that's crazy. I
fantastic.
didn't know that.
Yeah.
I wouldn't hate that question. I would answer it with pride every time. That's pretty
He's
interesting.
probably had to answer that
Or is it
A million
1,000
times.
times.
Or is it more
Yeah.
like, do you feel lucky, punk?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I just wish I had a better answer because
That's a great answer.
you know, people
I
say,
love
the guitars from the Far East used to say, whatever it is.
Nah.
That's the fact of how it all came down. But
That's
since
great.
then we've got a bunch of different brands that have spawned out of that. Airline in particular really came together in 2006, which you learn a lot about not just about dealing with manufacturers, but about trademarks, and that whole world of patents and trademarks is an interesting world that you really need to understand well to do what it is that we do.
So that, I guess that begs the question: Are these some of these designs really well known, like the like the Mosrite style and the Airline? Are those licensed? Did you have to purchase a license? Or
Yeah, most of them we own now. We own the trademarks.
Gotcha.
But there's basically in the guitar world, there's really only kind of headstock shapes and brand names that can really be trademarked.
right?
There's always been the struggle about body shapes and who designed what and who owns what. And there's really, it's a slippery, expensive slope to try to defend something like that. So
right.
obviously you don't do a Fender headstock, you don't do a Gibson headstock, you don't say, Stratocaster with 2 R's.
Yeah, they'll still get you.
Yeah, it's just everybody has to kind of carve out their own territory and do it with some level of integrity. Nobody's really trying to directly rip off somebody else. They're just trying to bring a new product to market.
Right. Well, and
Because-
how boring would it be if everything was the same?
Well, when you strip everything down, most things have like a bridge, a nut, and probably 2 pickups, and the rest of it is just different body shapes, different headstock shapes, slightly different scale lengths, maybe a whammy bar, maybe not,
And pick guards.
and pick guards.
And that's
I
one thing
love
you have
pick
no
guards.
shortage of is interesting pick guards.
That's right.
That's great. So you started in 2002 NAMM show.
Mhm.
Spent the next 14, 15, 16 years now. And
Was there ever a point in time where you were just like, you know what, I've had it?
No, the business, the thing that I like doing is growing businesses. I had a high-tech company back. We started in '89. We went and acquired our competitor in California in '91. We moved out there and grew that and then sold it. And then the guitar thing was just kind of a hobby that evolved into a business now. But I just have fun doing that. And so, when there's bad time, like 2008, when the stock market crashed,
Yeah.
our sales, as well as Fender, and I could imagine anybody else who's selling, if you were selling something in 2008 that people don't really need, like food, guitars don't fit into that category. You don't need another guitar, but we all know we all buy another one. But in 2008,
every guitar player I know, it doesn't matter if it's a choice between a sandwich or a guitar.
Yeah.
Guitar wins.
Well,
yeah. But at that point in time, it was so frightening
Yeah.
that people just sat on their wallets and the credit cards just went dormant. People just did not buy because there was such a level of uncertainty.
Yeah, there really
and
was.
so everything kind of just dried up and backed up like 35%. Revenues dropped by 35% almost overnight.
Wow.
And it took, I don't know, probably 4 years before that really, 4 to 5 years before that really came back to, comfortable people are going to pull out their credit cards and do what they used to do. So, you know, that in terms of trials and tribulations and wanting to give up, that was a time that I thought was about as bad as it could get. And, you know, no doubt that's going to happen again in the near future. There'll be another stock market crash and people will be fearful about their expenditures. But in the meantime,
to my stomach.
you could delete that whole aspect because it's never going to happen again. It's just
Mike Robinson, beacon of hope.
Yes, put on your rose-colored sunglasses and follow me into the sunset. The fun part is that when you know, we've just been growing. Apart from that one blip, we just continue to grow and expand. And
yeah, that was going to be my next question, because I know initially you started off primarily out of Canada. And what was the next step? I mean, did you go to U.S. distribution or?
The next step, I think, was in 2009. I hooked up with a friend of mine who was actually a dealer of ours in Liverpool. And we just got to know each other over the year. He was selling a lot of our guitars over there. We were shipping them all to him from Canada. And when we got together for a trade show over there and spent the weekend together and thought that, well, you know what, we would be better off working together at Eastwood than him and his shop, where he could take over all the operations for Europe and we could start shipping containers from China and Korea directly to Liverpool rather than through Canada and then individually guitar shipping from there. So that was the first branch. The next step was shortly after that. The numbers didn't make sense shipping from Canada into the United States because 95% of the North American revenue is U.S.
Okay.
So we just partnered again with another one of our dealers down there and said, how would you like to warehouse, 2,000 guitars and handle our distribution from there? And so that was the next step after that. That was probably 2012 or 13 we did that.
Wow. So I guess now, especially with all of the trade wars and things that are going on, I mean, do you anticipate that affecting the business as well as distribution and?
I'm more concerned about Brexit right now than trade wars.
Really?
Yeah. Brexit can just throw a spanner in the works. I don't know if that's a U.S. term or a British term, but
Screwdriver.
Okay. It can just.
But I know what a spanner is.
It can mess
monkey wrench.
Yeah, throw a monkey wrench. Yeah, but so and it's more immediate. It's kind of I think it's April of 2019. And as far as the trade wars are concerned, it's just so much rhetoric going on. It's just easier just to ignore it and keep moving ahead until it becomes something. I mean, if I was, in Canada, if you're a dairy producer,
yeah, you
should be concerned. If you're bringing in a couple of container loads of guitars, it's just so small under the radar to any of this stuff. I don't want to, and therefore. Let's not talk about politics.
Yes.
Forget about that whole thing. I'm ignoring it. The short answer is I'm ignoring it.
Good. Let's do that right now.
Yeah.
One thing I will make of note, I don't know why I've heard about this as much as I have lately. Maybe because there's two. So one thing I want to bring up is that you have an abundance of a certain kind of guitar that I think maybe just because our correspondence with Alex Miller of Xander Circuitry and Eric Marrow, who does a ton of demo work out there. Both those guys are left-handed, which is kind of strange and rare in the guitar world because I think most people just say, oh, fine, I'll just learn how to play right-handed. But they didn't do that, and they said, no, I'm going to be a lefty. And I'm sure as a left-handed person, it's got to be difficult to find some guitars that you want, and especially without having to pay a lot for them. I mean, we have your page up right now, and I'm looking at 1, 2, 3, 4. Just in the small window that I have of one of 6 pages of all the guitars that are
there's a lot more than that.
Well, I mean on the main one.
Yeah, there's probably close to 100 different lefty models if you.
Right.
There's a filter that you can just click on left-hand versions, and yeah, there's probably 5 or 6 pages with 20 on each page. I'm not sure. Somewhere around there, but yeah.
So Alex from Xander Circuitry and Eric Marrow of Eric Marrow Demos and stuff, this would be a great place for you to get a guitar. I'm just saying. Yeah, outstanding. So, as far as your models go, I know that you have an awful lot. You've said the number, and I should write this number down next time you do say it. But are you growing that base, or are you going to kind of stick at that base, or where are you at with that?
Well, we should talk a little bit about Eastwood Custom Shop, which is kind of a separate business unit.
Cool.
Because it helps kind of explain why there's so many models and why it will continue to grow. But as you know, every time we bring on another two or three models, we generally retire one or two. So it's just the nature of our business, making replicas or tributes to really bizarre, weird stuff. There's a finite number of people out there that are willing to buy a Teisco Del Rey Spectrum 5, for example. We'll continue to sell it. When you first bring it out, you'll probably capture 60% of the market, and then over the next 5 years, the other 40% will come through, and then eventually it'll just fizzle out. But by then, you've introduced another. I mean, when we come back to Eastwood Custom Shop, but before I go there, just one note about the lefties.
Yes.
The guy I mentioned earlier, Carl Cook, who runs our European operation, he's left-handed, so he's responsible for not letting me off the hook.
A lefty-handed champion.
Oh my God, yeah.
He's
have
all
so many
right.
left-handed guitars. Yeah.
No, he's not.
I'm sure
He's
you
all
lefties, your lefties out there can send an email to carl@eastwoodguitars.com thanking him for all of those lefties. But so about probably. That was a Canadian thing, about. Did you catch that?
It's okay. We get a lot of that on the shoe.
Okay.
Sorry.
A number of years ago, I'm thinking probably 2012, 2013, we're constantly getting people say, hey, I love that airline map guitar, but can you do it in black with gold hardware, for example?
Right.
And the answer always is, no, we just can't do that. And eventually I put a standard reply email together that said, yes, if you're willing to buy 8 of them, I can do that. And I just thought that would be somewhat of a deterrent until somebody eventually said, okay, I'm in. And I said, really?
Should have said 20.
So we ended up working out a deal where I said to them, okay, tell you what, you put up enough money to fund 4 of them. I'll put up the money to fund the other 4 of them. And as we sell them off, we'll pay you back. So you end up only paying for 1 in the end, but you're going to have to front some money. And it was just a kind of a one-time thing. And it worked out so well that we got thinking about this whole kind of crowdsourcing that had started to come into favor back in probably 2013 or 14 with, what's the name of the most popular crowdsourcing one?
Kickstarter?
Kickstarter.
Yeah.
So we looked at Kickstarter and we thought, I understand it, but there's no way we're going to be successful there because people who follow Kickstarter are not guitar players. Our own mailing list is, 150,000 guitar players. So why don't we build our own Kickstarter for guitars, which is what we did. It's called eastwoodcustoms.com. And the best example was, I think, maybe only the second model we ever did, probably December 2014 or so. Somebody suggested, and this is where somebody could just make a suggestion, hey, why don't you guys do such and such? And then we say, okay, fine, we'll put up a picture of the original. We'll say, if we can get 12 people interested in this, it's going to, when we make it 4 to 6 months from now, it will sell for $799. Give us $150 now, and if we can get another, if we can get 12 people to put in the deposit, then we'll go ahead and make it. And it's really just that simple.
That's so
back,
cool.
it was, and it was just an experiment, but somebody suggested making that crazy old Devo guitar, which was called the LeBay. It was basically the LeBay 2x4.
You have Devo followers, that
we
they
do
created
now.
that into a cult.
Weren't LeBays made up in Canada originally?
No, I think they were in Milwaukee.
Okay.
I'm not sure, but I think. But the funny thing was, I'd been thinking about making that guitar for 10 years, and I just always looked at it and thought, who's going to want that? Are we what are we going to sell? 10 or 20? Is it really worth it? And I always kind of put it aside, but we put it up on Custom Shop, And within 2.5, 3 weeks, we sold 170 of them.
Holy smokes!
Yeah, I know.
There's a whole cult group.
Oh, I know. You just told
and I
me
was
that.
trying
I
to
bet
figure out
half of
how.
them weren't even guitar players.
I thought, how did that happen? We realized that this is the awakening for me of what social media is and the power of it.
Sure.
There's a guy who runs the Devo Facebook page. And I went over there and looked at it, and then, wow, they've got like 800,000 followers. Yeah, they're probably not guitar players, but they're Devo fans. So we asked the guy and what he'd done is he'd put a link, because he'd heard from one of the Devo followers, hey, there's these guys who are going to make a replica of the old Devo guitar, and boom. And by the time it was done, we sold like 240 of them. And this is, so prepaid deposits 6 months before we even delivered the guitar.
That's incredible.
And that was kind of the whole catalyst
I'm
for
in the
Custom
wrong
Shop. And
business.
this is why, if you go there now, eastwoodcustoms.com, you'll see we're introducing a new model every week, which is kind of insane. But, and some make it, some don't. Some barely make it, which will only make those 20 pieces and it'll be gone forever. Some, like, we did a deal with John Backlund for Backlund Guitars. And those things, we sold 120 of those. And now since then, I think we've developed now 6 models with John. So it just becomes this way the risk is off my shoulders. The risk is off the customer's shoulder, because if we don't make the minimum target, then you get your $150 back and no harm, no foul. So nobody's taking any kind of risk. We're all just kind of jointly figuring out, well, would this weird thing be cool enough to do? And if so, put your hat in the ring and please make suggestions. So
I love it.
You could imagine the number of suggestions we get, and that have to be vetted for patents and trademarks. And that's where it comes back to what I was saying earlier. We really have to have a clear understanding of what you can and can't do.
And for those of you who are looking, maybe trying to go, how am I going to remember what he just said about the custom shop? So when you go to Eastwood, the first nav item is shop by series, and there is a custom shop link in there that'll take you to it.
But that actually takes you to that's a bit confusing, but that actually takes you to the ones that have succeeded on custom shop and are now full-time products.
Aha.
So that's the second part of this whole thing. Once you graduate, so once the Devo thing became successful, we then make a decision of, do we want to carry this as an ongoing catalog item? It'll show up in Custom Shop on eastwoodguitars.com.
Okay.
But there's a separate site, and there probably is a link in there too, but there's a separate site.
There is on that page.
eastwoodcustoms.com.
Yeah.
And that's where you can see what's kind of in the pipeline right now. Well, we just put up another, I think there's 2 more this morning that got added to that. We're actually going to do a
Newport.
You guys
face.
are familiar with the Gretsch Billy Bow?
Yeah.
Yeah, we got that one coming up probably tomorrow morning.
So how do you skirt? I mean, I know that if you change out the headstocks, different things like that. I mean, do you ever get any pushback from some of these companies that say, "Hey, that's ours. You can't do that"?
Oh yeah, I've got a file folder full of cease and desist letters. but you just need to understand what they are, what they mean, and how to abide by them. And if you just stop doing, most times when we do get something like that is because we were unaware that there is some trademark out there, and we just do what they ask, which is cease and desist. But it's not often that happens, because there's like I said, we'd never do a Gibson headstock or a Fender headstock. You're just asking for trouble.
Yeah.
So you're just, most of these things, like if you look through the whole Eastwood catalog, most of them were built in the late 50s and 60s by companies that have not existed since 1971.
Sure.
So the trademarks themselves, like Airline, that brand, you can, at the time back in the early 2000s, I just went and bought that brand.
Jeez.
Yeah,
That's a clean
amazing.
way to do it.
Yeah. Wowzers. So yes, eastwoodcustoms.com is where you can go get in early on soon to be released models. That's really crazy. Jared has got his hand up. for a question. Yes, Jared,
I feel
do
like
you have a
I'm
question?
I'm in class. I'm in the back
We
row.
are
Nobody
in class.
sees me.
We're always in class.
I wanted to get down into the guts of some of these things. I've had clients. I'm a pickup guy, so I've had clients call me and say, "Hey, I need a wiring harness for this weird, not an airline brand, but a brand similar to airline, but it had all these different configurations and push buttons and really weird, and they couldn't find the correct wiring harness to save their lives. So my question to you is, how accurate are you guys going? How far are you going to making these as accurate as possible, or do you just have somebody else
re-envisioned?
They just kind of redone? And
that's a good question. I mean, if for example, if you guys remember the Echo brand out of Italy,
yep,
and they had that was an accordion factory in the 50s that got retooled for electric guitars, but in doing so, they used accordion switches for a lot of their early guitars. That's why they have those really strange, funky switches on them.
Yes, that's so cool.
Those are neat little guitars.
We've done some. That's why we, in those cases, we avoid using the word replica of. I'd rather say tribute to, because that means there's no way I'm going to go find accordion buttons and redesign that guitar. But I'm going to take the aesthetics of the shape of it, the pick guard shape, replicate the pickups as close as I can, but more so from a aesthetic point of view than from a functional point of view. Because if you had the original, it functioned like crap anyway. So why replicate a crappy guitar?
Exactly.
What you're trying to capture is
the spirit.
When somebody sees that guitar, the spirit of it. That's a good word. That when somebody sees that guitar, they get curious and they want to know more.
Yeah.
And unless you put our guitar right next to an original guitar, you're not really the subtle differences are the nuances are subtle and really don't matter, because the odds of you having it next to an original, you're probably not going to buy my replica if you own an original.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the gist of what we're trying to accomplish.
Well, one of the things that I really love about what you're doing is that there are so many guitars that aside from the ultra weird ones, there's some that we just wouldn't have access to anymore. I mean, I remember just several years ago. Well, even now, if you're looking for an original Mosrite, like Johnny used to play the Ramones, it's like, I mean, those are really expensive, and what you're allowing us to do is get that guitar without breaking our necks. And it's going to be actually a better playing guitar.
Oh yeah, the electronics too, especially.
Yeah, but I mean, those are the guitars that our heroes made.
And Johnny's electronics were not the original ones either.
Yeah.
No, and that's what we find. There's most of our customers are kind of curious about how cool the old guitars were, but there's no way they're going to spend $4,000 or $5,000 on a 1960s something that probably doesn't function well. And they'd be happy spending $700 to $1,200 on something that works perfectly.
Yeah.
And then we also have a lot of customers that own originals, and they look at ours and go, "Well, I'd rather go out on tour with the Eastwood than I would taking my original out." So they can leave, like you said earlier, they can leave their good stuff in the case, and take ours out there, and they know it's going to perform as well or better than, and still get the same appeal from a visual standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
That's fantastic, man. So, what is next on the Eastwood plan?
One thing I'm excited about, have been, as you guys were in Nashville, you witnessed it, but the next stage of our growth after Custom Shop came these partnerships that we've developed, first with Jeff Sen Guitars, John Backlund Guitars, and then Dennis Fano. Who I'm sure you guys are familiar with Fano Guitars and his latest venture, which is Novo Guitars. Yes. These guitars they're just spectacularly good.
Yep.
I mean, Dennis is the guy I have a huge amount of respect for what it is that he does. And a year and a half or so ago, we'd known each other on and off. Just he knows what I do, I know what he does, and we got together at NAMM just chatting. And it just occurred to me that when I pick up a Novo guitar, I think for every person that can afford this at $3,500, there's probably 10 people who can't. So why don't we get Dennis to design a series of guitars that are in that spirit of what he did with Fano and take it to the next generation, but let us take care of us, meaning Eastwood, take care of manufacturing, distribution, sales, everything else other than the design, and just have him oversee the design. And he is meticulous to a degree you can't even imagine.
Yeah.
But now we've got, Revolta was the brand that he came up with, Revolta guitars by Dennis Fano that are in that $799 to $1,500 range.
They're killer.
That are and the tagline we just you haven't seen it yet because we haven't advertised it yet, but this is coming out in the trade mags and everything over the next few weeks is just working man's boutique, which kind of for me says it all exactly what it is. And I think there's an opportunity to take this market called working man's boutique, people who can't afford the $3,500 boutique guitar, and give them an alternative that gets them, the satisfaction of owning something like that, but at a price point that's manageable. And that was the whole kind of catalyst of Dennis and I getting together. And here we are a year and a half later. He's opened a full made in USA guitar manufacturing facility that is right from scratch. And that's all for his Novo guitars. And we partnered with him on that space. And we handle all the distribution of the Revolta guitars from there. So his crew does incoming inspection, setup, and shipping of all the Revolta guitars. And then they manufacture the Novo guitars there. So you guys were there.
Yeah, we were lucky enough to meet you there and get a tour of the Novo facilities and meet with Dennis and everybody. And yeah, the Revolta guitar line, outstanding. Really fantastic looking, great playing.
We were like kids in the candy shop.
I love that you have deemed it, the working man's boutique, because that is the struggle for those of us who that's what our entire show is based on. Like the entire premise of the Guitar Knobs is based on connecting guitar enthusiasts with boutique builders, and a lot of times we have to do it from afar because we simply can't afford it. So the fact that you're helping that to be a reality is fantastic, and we're appreciative of it.
Yeah, no, I that's when you said the next stage. Like that's, I've spent the last 15 years building manufacturing, sales, and distribution worldwide for cool, funky guitars. And what most boutique manufacturers or builders don't have is just that. They can make great guitars by hand, but the handling of the sales, marketing, and distribution is kind of something it's not their space. They're good at the design, they're good at the manufacturing, the setup, and making beautiful guitars, but they need help with that.
Yeah.
And that's why, we've got this machine that we've built that we could just take something like Revolta by Dennis Fano, drop it into the machine, and make a successful product launch out of the whole thing.
Yeah. Outstanding, man.
Yeah. If you don't mind me asking, and if you can divulge the information, on a monthly basis, what quantity of guitars are you shipping?
I'd love to say tens of thousands. It's nowhere near that. It's under 1,000.
Okay.
And it depends, how it breaks out so our guitars are made in China and Korea, probably 50-50 in terms of quantity. And North America, Europe is probably 40%, and North America would be 60%, with a piece of all of that being 5% elsewhere, which would be Australia and Japan and places like that.
I imagine Indonesia's you're probably doing well in Indonesia.
We're not manufacturing anything there yet.
No. I mean
don't sell anything.
Selling.
No, we don't sell anything there.
Really interesting.
No, there's very little rock and roll culture in in those countries. Even China, for example, it's a very small market right now.
Yeah, we do have quite a few listeners there that have shared their guitar stuff. So that's why I was curious if that was a thing or not.
It's just it's a tiny market compared to like North America, United States. I mean, Canada is only 5% of North America in terms of revenue. Like the Canadian market is smaller than California alone. But
really,
we've done, yeah.
Huh.
I mean, we have good like Canadian bacon, stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, I'm taking that. These guys are laughing. I'm taking that serious.
Oh, hey, no, we are too.
He loves his Canadian bacon.
He does love bacon. No lie.
Well, who doesn't?
Right.
Cool, man. Well, listen, I'm just so happy that we got to talk to you about stuff. So you just did you got the Revolta out there. That's like crazy hotcakes out there. It's good. Go get your Revolta. Anything else on the horizon?
Yeah, we've got a few other things. One of the things we've been working on for quite some time, and we actually showed some prototypes at the Summer NAMM show, and that is a line of pedals that are
Look out, Todd.
it's small, it's focused, and they're actually they're going to be made in Canada.
Oh,
so these are serious pedals. They're not offshore bringing them in by the thousands. They're
right.
handmade in Canada, and they're branded Airline. The reason we've gone a long way with the Airline brand itself, and there's a certain kind of aesthetic and sensibility with that particular brand. So these first couple of pedals will be branded Airline, and then we're just going to see how that moves forward. The other thing we've got going on, which we own Airline and all the brands associated with that and all the trademarks. We also own Valco. Valco was the original manufacturer that did Supro, National, and Airline, and they also had Valco amplifiers that came out in many different brands. But we're actually launching a line of pickups that are designed in the UK and manufactured in Korea. They're going to cover all the spots where you would expect a brand like Eastwood to have the certain type of weird and funky pickups that would fit under the Valco brand. That's probably going to be ready for NAMM show.
How about any thoughts of going into amplifiers or?
We tried that probably 8 or 9 years ago, and I just find that from a business standpoint, the profit margins don't make sense to me, and
Gotcha.
it's just highly competitive market.
Okay.
So not a lot of gain there.
I can't build something as good as this Magnetone.
Yeah.
There's no way.
That's a good one.
Well, I'm excited to see, especially the Airline pedals. I think I really like pedals and stuff, and I know most of our listeners are pretty into them. When do you expect those will be coming out?
They'll be ready before NAMM. We've just got the prototypes together. We've just got to tweak a few things here and there, and to do with supply chain for components and stuff. But we'll have them ready for retail certainly before NAMM.
Okay.
Awesome.
Are you going to have a pretty big presence at NAMM this year? Or?
No, funny you ask that, because every year, right around this time, every year we ask that same question. We look at it and we go, yeah, no. And we did our first NAMM show, I think, in 2006, and our last in 2009. And it just, in my mind, it just doesn't, and I may be wrong about this, but it just doesn't pay to be there. When I could, I know who all the dealers are in North America now. Just by getting on the computer, I can figure out who they are. By the end, I don't need to physically be there at NAMM.
Mm-hmm.
On the off chance I may run into the guys who are already dealers for us. So I'd rather spend that money wisely, doing better things than NAMM. Now, if the NAMM guys are listening, I'm sorry, that's my opinion, but we do go there. There's always 5 or 6 of us there. We rent a house. We have a lot of fun. We invite people over. We go to a lot of meetings at NAMM just to kind of meet with suppliers and whatnot, but we don't bother exhibiting.
Okay.
It's kind of impossible when you have the product line we have. We may do Revolta only this year, which is one thing we're still mulling over, because that brand by itself, if you just check out the Revolta Guitars on the Eastwood site or go to revoltaguitars.com, you could see that it's kind of a standalone thing that is Dennis Fano, inspired, and so we may do that. But we won't do a whole Eastwood thing.
Okay.
Well, if you end up going there for whatever reason, we'll be there and we can give us a high five somehow.
Yeah, you guys can come over for our barbecue.
Ooh,
We're
dog.
there.
We're
Count us
there.
in.
Done.
And now I know what to bring: Canadian bacon. We'll just,
Yes.
see,
We got our plane tickets. We're going.
Yeah.
that's kind of a no-brainer. We'll just
Yeah.
have to ship down a couple of cartons of Canadian bacon.
That's right.
Just make sure you
That's
pack it
just
well
for
with
Jared.
pedals.
That's right.
Yeah. Just pack it with pedals, and that's fine.
Mm.
Hey, so all right, we are going to segue into our third part of our show, which is
Would you rather?
all right.
All right. Okay. Yes.
Okay.
Come on. All right. This week's Would You Rather, especially because we have Eastwood on today for the Would You Rather. So you're walking down
Here he goes.
the street and you walk into a guitar shop that only has a couple of guitars
Like a really
on
crappy
sale.
pawn shop.
Yeah. And they only have a couple of guitars.
Okay.
And you have to buy one of these two guitars because you got a gig that night, and they're the only two guitars left in the world. So
And this is Would You Rather, so you have to do something.
exactly. Would you rather have the Cadillac Finn guitar that's on the shelf with like the two taillights?
Yeah.
I mean, crazy things. Or would you rather have the United States map shaped made by Gibson?
I would definitely take the Cadillac Finn. I mean, that's a no-brainer.
Okay.
I would,
Cadillac-
and I'd be happy with it. I was going to say if you only had like the United States map and something else, then I'd just whatever I bought, I'd make sure and I get a 48-hour return policy. I'd do the gig and bring it back. But I'd keep the Finn for sure.
Okay. Tony, what are you doing?
Well, I had one of the Epiphone map guitars.
Really?
Yeah. Oh my! And it was just horrible to play.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you suppose the Gibson would have been, any better?
It's exactly it balanced poorly. It was heavy. It was big. It was stupid, and
Didn't even sound good.
it sounded like a Les Paul.
Yeah.
It's basically what it was, only chopped up.
Huh.
So I'm going to go.
Did you
Yeah.
did you take a pin and poke it into the Ohio where you lived at that time?
I did not do that. Maybe it would have sounded better had I done that.
Jared, what are you doing?
Well, I didn't get a chance to say.
Oh, sorry, Tony. Go
I
ahead.
said that I had one of the Epiphone.
Oh, that's
map
right. Okay,
guitars,
yes.
which I should have kept now because they're
Yeah, you
trading for
should
big
have.
money. But I'm going to go with the Cadillac Finn.
All right.
And with does that have batteries in it to power the lights?
I would suppose you would need them, yes.
Okay,
Man, I remember seeing one of those at Guitar Center ages and ages ago, like late
Finn one?
80s, early 90s. Yeah. Yeah,
No.
legit. Oh, yeah. Yes.
What'd they want
On the
for it?
wall. I remember seeing that. I was like, who's playing that thing? It was a pink Cadillac with like a pink Eldorado. Is that Eldorado Finn? I'm not really sure.
Could've
Can't
been.
remember which model, but anyways, yeah, it was nuts, man.
Well, it's got the two taillights down there.
Whatever. It's Cadillac Finn. Anyways, we're getting into this isn't the Cadillac Finn show. So go ahead. What do you,
Being a United States military police veteran,
yes.
I am
Thanks for your
certainly, thank you, I'm
I'm gonna enter
certainly,
a screaming eagle right there.
there's no way
He snorted.
that I could do this gig without that fin. So I'm going to get that Cadillac.
All right. I'm going to take the U.S. map with the contingency plan because and you all know me now that I can't leave anything well enough
You're
alone.
really going to do the map?
Yes, because I'm either going to do one of two things. And I
You're
haven't-
gonna
trace out all the states.
You're going to build a wall at the bottom.
No, brother. No. I used to have an old puzzle, like a kid puzzle map. That
Yeah,
had all
yeah.
the
A lot of us
little
had those.
states, with all the different colors. I think that would actually look really neat. Right?
Yes.
Actually, yeah.
Yeah.
Or make it a what if history map and it was a Union Jack. over the top.
That, or you could just cut California off.
out. Yeah.
There's many ways to do this.
Extend it out.
I would have fun with it. Maybe I sand it off and repaint it something else. Anyways, that was a fun one. Okay, thank you so much, Jared.
Hey, you're welcome.
Thanks, Jared.
And Tony,
Yes.
I'm going to ask Mike something real quick. All right, Mike, where can people find you on the internets?
There's many places. The best place to go is just eastwoodguitars.com. And that leads to all of the various brands that we have, all the models, videos, everything you ever wanted to know about the products that we have.
Awesome.
Cool.
From there, you could also check out myrareguitars.com, which is more of a kind of an ongoing blog. But it kind of ties in with the history of all the strange, weird things we do. We do a bunch of videos like, well, I'll do some personal videos showing original airline guitars from the 50s, that type of stuff.
Cool.
And then the other thing we mentioned earlier is eastwoodcustoms.com, which is where we weekly launch. So you want to bookmark that page, but we weekly launch new models. It's our crowdfunding thing. So it's a lot of fun. Just go check that thing out. Anybody, if you visit eastwoodguitars.com, just so we know that you heard about us there, we've created a unique coupon code, which is going to give you a crazy good discount, but only one time. So, don't just throw a strap in your basket and waste this percentage off. But we're going to give you 20% off your first order.
Holy moly.
The entire order. So buy 10 guitars. We'd be happy with that.
Holy smokes.
And a strap. But there's a coupon code. We're gonna call it Knobs 20 off.
Knobs 20 off.
Knobs 20 off. Just a capital K, NOBS 20. And I think, well, you know what? We'll make it a variety of ways so we don't have to worry about the capital letters, but probably capital OFF.
Okay. Knobs 20 off.
Knobs 20
Say
off.
it 3 times and the
It
guitar
will
man
appear.
will come.
click your heels together.
Here's 20%.
That is
Oh,
a
that's-
huge
that's
huge
great, Mike.
The
deal.
big old
Thank you so
discount.
much.
Yeah.
Well, and yeah, it's been fun chatting with you guys because
Oh, man.
I like your show. I like that it's fun and kind of goofy. And
You're welcome.
Yeah, that's us, fun and goofy.
We try so hard to be professional.
Never works out.
No, but in all seriousness, that's a very generous offer to our listeners, and I greatly appreciate it. Our listeners are really important to us. They keep us going, and when folks like you decide that you want to help out, it's just really fantastic, and I'm thankful for that. So thank you for your generosity. Make sure you go check out Knobs 20 off. Tony,
Yes.
where can people find you?
Well, that's if you're looking for some custom pickguard work or
Yep.
want to change things up, whatever, different colors, different materials, go to pickguardian.com
Cool.
and see the stuff that I do. You can also go to post a lot of the projects that I'm working on
Instagram.
Instagram. Thank you. I had to think about that for a second. And that's Pickguardian and the number 1.
Jared.
Well, if you need some custom-made pickups, go to brandonwoundpickups.com. We also do vintage-type stuff, make it look old for you, and we do rewinds, very inexpensive and quick turnaround.
Perfect.
Yep. Brandon Wound
Lovely.
Pickups.
Tony, I think you have some people we need to thank that are very important to us.
We need to thank our very important people, also known as executive producers.
We love
Right.
them.
And we have a
them.
growing list of people who go to patreon.com/the guitar knobs,
Yep.
and they pledge money every month.
We love you.
Yes.
But the great thing about doing this, whether you're an executive producer or just somebody that just comes on board and maybe can't afford that level, but at every level, you get some neat prizes.
That's right. I hand
Yeah.
pack it myself.
I seen them do it.
Pins and stickers.
But when you get to the executive producer level, one of the biggest things that happens is, Jared,
You get a T-shirt.
You get your name read on the thing. And you get a T-shirt.
And a barefoot button.
And your name read on the
And
thing.
a bunch of stickers.
stickers
All right.
and picks and
Tony,
different
hit
things.
us.
So I would like to welcome our newest executive producer.
Yes, sir.
His name is Corey Nigro.
That's right, Corey Nigro. Welcome, my friend.
Welcome, Corey. Also, Key Sayers.
That's right.
We like Key. Doug Gann. Brad Partridge. Michael Van Zant. Doug Christ. Zach J. Wright. Gary Goodman and Son Beckett.
Woohoo!
Darren Gregory. Robert Marfleet. John Englund. Chris Kearney. Sean S. Oliver Gonzalez. John Daly. Robin Smith. Pete Marshall. Carlos Mancha. Matt Brammer. David Wolfson. Martin Cliff. And our original executive producer,
Tom Barazin.
Tom Barazin.
Thank you all so very much. It means the world to us that you give a crap. And I mean, I'm just
Very
being
professional.
honest.
Sounds good.
I think we're going to put Canadian bacon in
Yes,
with the next
give a Canadian bacon.
Excellent.
You can hear it sizzling.
And to those that as Tony mentioned, if you're doing the $1 and $5 tier, like honestly, you hear it from me because I write you a note. I really truly do appreciate you. Tony appreciates you.
Absolutely.
Jared appreciates you.
I love
we
you.
appreciate you. Folks, we will be at NAMM this coming NAMM, and so if you're thinking about going and you want to connect with us, reach out and see how we might be able to do that. We've got so many amazing guests coming your way soon, and we can't wait to bring them to you. Thank you for keeping our show going. Thank you for listening. Thank you, Michael Robinson from Eastwood Guitars, for your time.
You're welcome, and thanks for having me.
You bet. And until the next episode, have a great guitar weekend. Subscribe!
Yeah.
Well, that's it for these knobs. Please visit our Patreon page at patreon.com/theguitarknobs. Visit our website at theguitarknobs.com for all of our past episodes, 4 on the Floor blog, and other good stuff. You can connect with us on social too at our Facebook page and share your gear and stories on our Facebook group. Also, be sure to check out our Instagram at Guitar Knobs. Catch you next time.